Hey everybody, this is Eric with SwigTech here, and we're going to get things kicked off. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day and schedules to learn something more about Microsoft. We have a lot to cover, so I'll move quick through some of these introduction slides and some of the housekeeping things. Out of the gate, a little bit about SwigTech. SwigTech is located in New Berlin, Wisconsin. We've been around. This is our 16th year in business. We actually celebrated our 15th last year. It's a ton of fun. We have about 30 employees. Of those folks, about half are technical. We split that into two different divisions of our professional services for engineers and then our support service for our help desk. And then we have a lot of administrative marketing and account managers and things like that. SwigTech really traditionally was a managed service provider. However, as the world has changed and evolved, our focus has been always on protecting your backup, your business continuity, but now more than ever, a big focus on cybersecurity, and additionally, a lot with Microsoft products. We do a lot with Microsoft, and we believe in kind of eating our own dog food when it comes out and trying things out ourselves first before deploying. A little bit about myself and our other presenter, Shane. So I'll be kind of the person answering questions and interrupting Shane along the way to make sure those questions are answered. But I've been with SwigTech for a little over 3 years. My title is Client Success Associate, but I help with account management, some of our outside sales, as well as some of our marketing. And Shane, I suppose you can introduce yourself. I won't do it any justice, and then I'll pick back up.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, excited to be here today. I'm also a Client Success Associate at SwigTech. I do a lot with account management and just kind of a general ambassador for Microsoft and Microsoft 365. So I'm excited to showcase some of what it can do today. And cool. I'm excited to get interrupted by you, Eric. So looking forward to it.
It's not me that's going to be doing it. It'll be everybody listening and watching. I'm just going to be their voice. So, and just, as a side note, that is something that we actually do with these presentations is we can take questions as we go. There is about a 30-second lag in our presentation, so I might not see the question right away. But if it fits, we'll stop and ask, and we'll take a couple breaks throughout, and then there'll be a Q&A at the end also. So for anything that maybe we missed or didn't catch, or falls outside of maybe what we were talking about at the time. But one of the things that we find interesting here as we do this presentation today, we did a different version of this presentation a few months back. That was more of like a 101, and it was really in the very early wake of when COVID had happened. And since then, 57% of major employers surveyed by the Wall Street Journal have decided to postpone back to work plans as cases continue to rise. Some of those companies are shown here with their logos on the screen. As an example, Google is pushed back until summer of 2021. It's a whole year from now, basically. Square is indefinitely. Facebook is through the end of the year. So it continues to be a dynamic situation that is evolving. And as more companies kind of push that date back to have people fully back in the office and embrace work from anywhere or work from home, we realize that there's a big need to leverage Office 365. And we're excited to show you some pretty neat things today. Before we really fully dive in, we want folks to just kind of, as a rule of thumb, set up your virtual workspace. What do we mean by that? Some best practice things, whether you have Office 365 or G Suite or whatever it is you're doing, trying as best practices to access your documents in the cloud. And of course, put some sort of security protection behind that, whether you're using a passportal or like a password keeper or Vault or something like that would be good. But then additionally, leveraging multi-factor authentication, also known as MFA. Those things are very easy to set up. Back up your files. Make sure your files are being backed up, ideally to a cloud or offsite solution, so you're not losing that work. And use the devices that are available to you. You can access cloud environments from any device, oftentimes your smartphone or tablet. And there's a lot of useful apps for scanning documents and things of that nature as well. Insofar as, sorry, Shane. No, but insofar as an agenda, we're going to cover some of the Microsoft apps. We're going to spend some time on what's new. It's going to feel like a lot of information coming at you because some of these things aren't necessarily related to one another. So if we move through that quickly or it feels like it's confusing, this is a video that is going to be recorded and you will get a copy of this as a follow-up. So if you missed something or kind of didn't jive right out of the gate, you can rewatch later as we cover some of that stuff. And then Shane's going to cover file use, productivity hacks, which we're excited about. That's what the thing is called. And then, of course, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about security. With that, Shane, I'll stand by until I have to interrupt you.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Eric. And yeah, I do want to just reiterate what you just said there. We are going to, these couple of first bullet points here, Microsoft apps and what's new, we're really going to just run right through these. We just want to showcase some of the cool stuff that's in Microsoft so you get an idea and a feel for some of the cool stuff that's coming down the pipe and that you can do today with some of these new apps. So I'm going to run through those real quick. Feel free to throw questions in if you have them, and we'll either interrupt and talk more on those topics if they're a big hit, or we can always touch on them at the end if there's more questions too. So with that, Microsoft 365 apps, this is pretty much a direct screenshot from Microsoft 365 from the portal, showing you all of the different apps that you can open and use when you're in the environment. So this is going to contain a lot of apps that people are familiar with, like Excel, Word, PowerPoint, OneDrive, OneNote, SharePoint, those kinds of items. And then it's also going to contain some new offerings from Microsoft. And we'll talk on some of these today in more depth, but just to call out a couple of examples, they've got Bookings now, which is a very similar tool to Calendly, if folks are familiar with that, how you can manage your calendar and let other people schedule times when you're available. And then they've got other cool apps like the whiteboard, allowing you to collaborate on a digital or virtual whiteboard space as well. So there's all kinds of stuff in here. Don't be afraid to ask questions about any of it today, and we can answer them the best we can. And we'll also be touching on some of these in more depth as we go along. So what's new? There's all kinds of stuff, like we said, that's new and has been changing rapidly in Microsoft 365 recently. So I'm just going to call out a few of these. I'm going to really just explain what it is, not go into depth on how to use it. But like I said before, if you've got questions, let us know. So first one up, Power Apps is now coming to Microsoft Teams. So Power Apps is a really cool tool that Microsoft kind of touts as a feature where you can develop an app without knowing any code in a matter of 5 minutes or less. So this example here that this image is playing through is an HR person setting up kind of an HR application inside of Teams to showcase your personal profile and how complete your onboarding tasks are, and so on. These will be readily available in Teams, I think, this month. So you should start seeing this kind of stuff show up. A very similar app, Power BI, is now going to have its own full-on app or dashboard in Microsoft Teams. So with this, you'll be able to provide more of a streamlined experience across all of your different Power BI reports and dashboards that you have, so you can view them all in one convenient place and kind of jump around to the different reports. And then Microsoft is also adding a new kind of meeting experience feature. So you'll see here, this is kind of the traditional Microsoft Teams meeting. You've got the people in the room on the screen, and across the top, you've got some settings and features for your audio and video, and exiting the meeting, sharing your screen. And then on that right-hand bar, they're adding a feature where different apps and services, both Microsoft and third-party, are going to be able to kind of create an experience inside your meeting. So this example here is showing Microsoft Dynamics, which is a CRM or customer relationship management tool. And specifically, you can pull up an individual opportunity and review all of the details of it. So you can see the opportunity name, the close date, revenue, status of it, who owns it, all that stuff. So this is going to be great for collaborating in meetings, both on a one-on-one perspective to run through things like this for a CRM, but maybe on a larger scale to implement polls and surveys and stuff in a larger group meeting. Another new feature is Microsoft Lists is going to be coming to Teams as well. And I know I'm talking a lot about Teams right now, but it's really cool to see that all these other features and apps are being baked into Teams. We always talk about how Microsoft Teams is the hub, or the, kind of the conduit, the main environment that you can go to get to all of these. And Microsoft is just making it more and more robust. So it's exciting to see. But these lists allow you to organize and track different types of work and information. So this example here is an HR list that shows you all of the candidates and who's interviewing them, for an example. Next up, we've got Microsoft Shifts. So this has been in production for a while, but Microsoft has recently added a clock in and clock out feature. So now within shifts, you can see everyone's different shifts and their time that they're scheduled. And then you can also clock in across the top, and that's going to be geotagged or geofenced to let you know the specific location. So you can tell, someone maybe on a job site clocked in when they got on site at the job. So that's a really cool new feature that they're adding to shifts. And then Microsoft also just brought their voice assistant or voice commands to the mobile app for Teams. And so now right from within the mobile app, you can hit the little microphone icon in the top right and ask it to call someone, or you can chat a message to someone, pull up your calendar view, or join your next meeting or your day. All kinds of cool collaborative features with voice assistant that you can do now. And then data loss prevention is not a new topic, but Microsoft is now extending data loss prevention to individual workstations or computers. So we'll touch a little bit later on what data loss prevention is, but just to give you a brief idea, it's a feature in Microsoft 365 that allows you to flag and classify sensitive information like social security numbers or banking, routing numbers, that sort of stuff. And you can keep it safe and protected in your Microsoft environment. Now they're extending that to the workstation so that you'll also be able to keep it from being downloaded off of an individual workstation or maliciously stolen, things like that. They're also improving their contact cards. So I'm sure a lot of people who use Microsoft 365 are familiar with just having those general contact cards for different people that you have in your environment, which will show, basic email, maybe phone number information. Microsoft is really expanding on that. They're adding skill categories, job titles, aliases, business addresses, and so on. So you'll be able to see a lot more detail in these contact cards for your contacts. And then lastly, and this is a little bit more tech oriented or IT team related, but Microsoft is also working on a solution where you can deploy printers from the cloud. So this is a really great tool that will be in your IT team's chest to be able to say, get rid of a print server or stop deploying printers from group policies, which traditionally have been kind of not the greatest way to do printers. No one loves working on printers. And so this is making it really easy to add a printer in your Microsoft Cloud environment, and now you can deploy it to all of the different people at different locations. So it's making it more convenient for folks to be able to access those different printers and print from them. So we've got just a little bit of a summary here to wrap up. Those are all the items I just talked about. Like I said, feel free to ask questions on those now or later. But we're going to really kind of try shift gears from these items and dive into the meat of the presentation. So first thing up is files and using those files within Microsoft 365. So I'm going to touch a little bit on how you organize and share those files, and then we'll actually jump into the demo here and show you. So file organization, it's always a big question, where should I store what kind of files? And Microsoft kind of has two platforms for this. They've got the OneDrive side and the SharePoint side. So, and you'll see this in a minute when we jump into the demo, but the OneDrive for Business side of this is going to be more of a space for your personal or individual files. So a lot of you might be familiar with having a shared drive where you have shared drives that are accessible by multiple people or entire departments, or maybe even the entire organization or company. And then you usually have your own individual drive, like a U drive, it's oftentimes called, or an H drive, a home drive or user drive. That's space for just you, where you can keep documents that just you're working on for your position, maybe performance review information, payroll, benefits, details, things that only you need access to. That's kind of similar to OneDrive. So that's what your OneDrive space is for. We'll touch on file sharing and how you can share from both of these spaces later, but keep that in mind as we're going through this process. A lot of times your OneDrive stuff is going to be for just you. And then on the other side of that coin is SharePoint. And the SharePoint side, where you store files for an entire group or site or team of people, is going to be where you can have those shared drive spaces. So now
I think we had just a quick technical issue here with Shane's workstation, so I think he's just going to get that back up and running here.
I appreciate you holding down the fort while I decided to let my computer crash.
Yep. So if you're comfortable diving back in, we can put a bookmark in these questions here. I'll like one of them so I have a spot here. And if you're ready to go, I'll let you go back to it.
Cool, yeah, absolutely. Let me share my screen here and we will just kind of shift gears and dive right into this demo. I know we were talking through the file stuff, so yep. We'll continue that piece of this. Let me share. Okay, cool. All right, so sorry for the hiccup there. We are going to dive in and show you a little bit about OneDrive and SharePoint, how you can access those files, how you can share them, where they should be organized, all that good stuff. So first up, OneDrive. If you have OneDrive, it should be running in your system tray. If you don't have it, you might need to install it, but you can access it from down here. You can get signed in right from that link down there. Once you're signed in, you can view your OneDrive folder. This is going to show you all of your files that you have stored in your OneDrive. You can also see it. You'll see it here. Oops, sorry. You'll see it here on the left-hand menu, your OneDrive folder there. And if you're syncing files, you'll be able to see those synced folders as well, like your desktop documents and pictures folders. So like I said before, OneDrive is kind of a space for your individual files, but you can share files out from it. So to do so, if you just right click on a file, you're going to see this share icon. And I'll show you how to do this in a browser too. But for starters, you can click this share link, and this is going to give you an option to share this file. Depending upon how your organization has everything configured, you may be able to share it externally, you may not. It really just depends on how you have it set up. But you can choose anyone with the link can edit. You can pick specific people within your company, people that have existing access already, if maybe you just want to grab the link and share it and copy it for someone. Or if you go into the share, you can then choose specific people. And so you can share this file with just one individual or multiple people. You can decide if you want to allow them to edit it or download it. And then when you hit apply here, it's going to give you an option to type in those people's credentials. So I could share this with Eric Clark at SwickTech if I wanted to. It's going to warn me that he's outside of my organization. That's okay. You can type in a quick optional message here if you want to say something to him. And then you can hit send and you're kind of off to the races with that. So if you need to modify access for an individual file or share it from the web, if we go out to the web, I've already got my Office account set up, but if you don't, you can just go to portal.office.com and get signed in. And once this loads here, maybe. You can also get to these pages if you go to your file explorer and you want to view a specific document. You can say view online and it will pull up that individual document. There we go. Okay, I've got my Office site up, my Office portal up and running, and I'm going to go ahead and click on this OneDrive link to get to OneDrive. You can also click up here in the little icon menu to get to your most recently used apps, or if you click the all apps across the bottom, you'll see everything. So I'm going to go into OneDrive, and once you're in OneDrive, you're going to see those same documents are going to match what I have in my file explorer. And let's say I want to see who I've shared this business roundtable presentation with. I can go ahead and click on the ellipses on the side or the action dots and click manage access. And you're going to see everyone that you've given direct access to this link. So maybe this is something you don't want to share anymore, or maybe you don't want to share it with specific people. So you can click on Christy and you can adjust it to be just viewing access, or you can stop sharing with Christy altogether and remove her access. You can also click stop sharing across the top here to remove access for everyone. So maybe you no longer want to give access to a specific file in your OneDrive, you can go ahead and do that. So that's the OneDrive side. Really quick and easy tutorial on how to share those files and access them from both your computer and the web. And now we're going to do the same thing with the SharePoint side. So, and we'll touch more on where these files live in SharePoint and how you can access them from different apps and stuff. But for now, let's just jump into SharePoint here. And I'll show you how you can get to your SharePoint from the web and from your Teams, and then how you can sync it down to your computer. So we're going to skip through this. So in SharePoint, you should be able to view any sites that you have access to. I don't have any recent activities, so I'm not going to see anything here, but if we search for something, I'm going to see the individual sites. And so I can go into this Mark 8 project team site, for example. And so this is a specific SharePoint site. And right away, you're going to see your documents on the main screen. This may be configured differently depending upon how much you use the SharePoint side. So if you don't see them, that's okay. On the left, you can just click Documents and jump right into just the Documents section. And then if you want to be able to access these files, you can get to them from within Teams or online like we're doing right now, or from your File Explorer. So this is the online version, but if we go into Teams, you're going to see I have that Mark 8 project team, and a lot of these folders, this general folder, design folder, digital assets web folder, and so on, are going to have matching folders in your SharePoint site. So when you go into one of these folders and you click on files in the Teams channel, you're going to see those same files that you would if you click on that specific folder in your SharePoint library. So those are one and the same. So keep that in mind as you're editing and modifying these files, whether it be in SharePoint or Teams or on your File Explorer, like I'm going to show you in a second. It's the same file and you're collaborating across the entire environment. So if you make a change to this PowerPoint when you're in the web browser, it's going to also trickle into Teams and on your computer. So you can sync individual folders from Teams. But if you don't want to do that, a quick and easy way to do this is from within Teams. You can click Open in SharePoint to get to those files. That's going to take you right to where we are here. And you can go up to your main documents library by clicking Documents on the left or the Documents root folder here in the middle. And once you see all the files that are part of this SharePoint site, you can go ahead and click Sync across the top. And when you do that, you're going to have to allow it and say you want to open this in OneDrive, but it's going to pull up your OneDrive and start syncing that entire documents library on your computer. So now if we go into our File Explorer, you're going to see a new folder with this little building icon that's referencing that these are coming from SharePoint sites or Teams. And we're going to see that Mark 8 project team, and specifically that entire documents folder. And now that's going to all be synced just like our traditional shared drives that we had in the past. And you're going to be able to go into each and one of these folders and you can open up these files and edit them, collaborate on them, use them with other folks, etc. So it's a really slick new way that you can use folders locally on your computer when they're in the cloud. And just to call out here, you can also see on this SharePoint site, there's 19 members as a part of this team or SharePoint site. So keep in mind, like I said earlier, the SharePoint sites or the SharePoint side of the file structure is really designed more for groups of people, large groups of members, or maybe an entire department or an entire organization.
Shane, a quick question here.
Yeah.
From one of the listeners here. They said they created a channel in Teams and in SharePoint. They renamed the channel. A new folder was created with the new name and the old folder was still there. All the files transferred over to the new folder, but when they went into Teams, the new channel and folder was not there. The original channel was still there, but no files were in it. Is it possible to rename channels and folders?
Okay, that's a great question. So yes, you can rename channels and folders. However, there's one big caveat, and I'm guessing this is what you may have ran into, and that's this general channel. So if we go into Teams, you're going to see each team has a general channel. That general channel cannot be changed or renamed. If you do, it will let you, but it's going to, like you said, kind of recreate that old channel called general. So our recommendation is to just stay away from changing that channel. And if you did and your files are all over the place, it's okay. They're probably still there somewhere, but you might have to dive into the SharePoint side to figure out where that channel and its files kind of disappeared to. So that's on the files front. I do want to call out before we keep rolling with this demo stuff. There is an important thing to note with Microsoft Office 365. These files, whether they be in your email, your Exchange Online, your SharePoint Online, so those SharePoint sites or Teams we were just talking about, or your OneDrive Online, it is not actually technically backed up by Microsoft. It is, you know, they have redundancies in place to keep your Microsoft tenant up and running, but they make no promises if you were to accidentally delete that environment, or maybe your environment was attacked maliciously and removed, they are not going to have a backup of that data. So keep that in mind. We use Veeam at SwigTech, so you can reach out to us if you need Microsoft 365 backup set up. And it's a really great tool. It backs up everything iteratively and as a whole. So if someone blows away their entire inbox and all of the folders and everything, or their entire OneDrive and every folder and file, we can restore that back to the way it was with all of the exact file structure and everything. So super important that you're backing everything up. And that's even more true in today's world with the cloud environments.
While we're here, I'll take another question that just came through. They had asked, can we restrict our employees in the admin IT sending files via chat to avoid duplication of files in Teams chat folder and SharePoint, OneDrive files, etc.? So I think I understand the question. I don't know if you can see it, if you want me to repeat it.
No, I think I gotcha. I don't believe there's a way to completely restrict the ability in chat to have files and stuff. I think it's more of a process and a learning concept to teach folks not to put stuff into the chat if it's something important that you want stored in a SharePoint site or somewhere else, to not create duplicates. Microsoft is getting better at avoiding duplicates. So oftentimes if you upload a file with the same name, it's going to warn you before it puts it into your Teams environment, whether that be an individual chat or a group channel or team. It's going to warn you and say, hey, you've already got a copy of this in Microsoft. Are you sure you really want to upload another one? So that will help with that, but I do think it's more of an education piece. Cool, so shifting gears a little bit, we're going to jump into some more of these productivity hacks and stuff. So one of the big ones that we'll dive into when we get back into the demo is going to be Office 365 groups. Office 365 groups are really powerful, and they're kind of behind the scenes. So we're going to talk a lot today about what they are. And an Office 365 group is not only a distribution group or an email list, but it also can have a calendar tied to it, files, an entire SharePoint site, a plan, which we'll get into, a OneNote notebook, and a Microsoft Teams team. So really powerful tool. And we're going to showcase that as one of our first productivity hacks here today. So jumping back into our demo. All right, and so I'm going to showcase a little bit about Office 365 groups today. We're going to create a group. We're going to walk through what that looks like, what it all gives us access to, the different items I just mentioned, and how we can use those to collaborate and be more productive. So from your browser, you can also do this from Outlook, but I'm going to do it from the browser side. It will look very similar to your Outlook. If you want to do it from here, you'll see your groups listed in Outlook as well, but the browser side is just a little quicker, so I'm going to use that today. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Outlook. Outlook tends to be the easiest way to create one of these Office 365 groups. Don't ask me why. I'm not sure why that's the place where they put it, but you'll see here down on the left-hand side on our left-hand menu, you'll see all the different groups that you're a part of in your Outlook tenant. And if we right-click on groups, we're going to have the opportunity to create a new group. So I'm going to go ahead and do so. Let's say we want to name this group the Milwaukee group. So I'm going to call it just simply Milwaukee. It's going to tie an email address to this group. You can add a specific description if you want. So we'll say this is the Milwaukee Regional Office. And then you can set this group up to be private or public. So if you want everyone to be able to see it at your company, you can choose public. Specifically, I want this to be just the folks in Milwaukee, so we'll say it's private. And then you can choose whether members will receive notifications in their inboxes. It's really up to you if you want to have that setting turned on or not. And then of course the language. So we're going to go ahead and create this group. And then it's going to allow us to add a few members. So I'm going to add the folks in our Milwaukee office here real quick, just a couple of different people. And then you can click add. You don't have to do this right away. If maybe you're creating this group for just yourself off the bat and you want to add folks later, you can skip this step. But we'll go ahead and add those people to this group. And you're going to see right away this is going to create a group in our Outlook environment. And you're going to see some, very basic details here. You're going to see the email thread or the conversation thread here. So right away it added a new email into the group. And then so the easiest way to edit settings for an individual group are going to be this ellipses in your Outlook environment. So we can go ahead and click that and click settings. And this is going to be where you can go ahead and edit the group. So from there, you can add a picture. If you have a picture to add, you can change the name and the description. You can adjust it from private to public. You can choose to let people outside the organization see or email this group. So maybe you want to have it as a distribution list for sales orders as well. You can do that. And then you can turn on and off the feature to send emails to everyone's inbox when there's changes made or notifications or updates to a group. So like I said, Office 365 groups are really powerful. There's all kinds of different ways that you can interact with them and use them. So first up, since we're in Outlook already, is going to be the email piece. So if you want to send an email to this group, you can do so. And this is going to send an email to all of the members of the group. And it's also going to send email to the group itself. So when we hit send here, you're going to see that email show up in this thread. So you can view emails to the group from in here, and then everyone that's in the group should also get an email. And I don't think I will because I just sent it, but we'll also get an email in their inbox that they got that message. So that's the email portion, really simple, easy. All of a sudden you've created a group and you've already got a distribution list to send emails. You can also store files as part of this Office 365 group. So if we click the go to group files here, it's going to load those document files, and you're going to see these same files across the board in a lot of places. So just to give you an example, let's upload a file here. So if I've got something on my computer or maybe in my OneDrive folder that I want to be part of this group, I can go ahead and just move it into this group. And normally you would create new documents and stuff in here, but for the sake of this, I'm just going to steal a document from a different place so I can kind of showcase where this goes. So you can add files right in here. You can switch back to that email view if you want, and back to the files view as well. The next piece you can do with an Office 365 group is you can create or you can edit a calendar. So this is going to be a separate calendar. You'll see it in our groups window here. So it's a little different than just adding items to your calendar. But the value add here is that with this groups calendar, you can maybe add a stand-up meeting and have the group be the organizer. So now if someone maybe transitions to a different role or leaves the company, you don't have to rely on an individual's calendar for modifying and accessing and organizing already existing events. So this is a really great tool for maybe you have stand-up meetings or weekly meetings for your Milwaukee office, and you can generate them on the Milwaukee calendar, and then you can add the different people that are a part of it. So you'll see here, if we add a new event, you can choose to put it on the Milwaukee calendar. We'll call it weekly stand-up. And then you can invite the folks that are part of it if you want it to show up on their individual calendars. So we can add those people here that we added to the group. And then, you could go through and you could make this recurring every week on Wednesdays and send that. And now it's going to be a part of that group calendar, and it's also going to be a part of those individuals' calendars when they go in and see their calendar. So the next part of an Office 365 group is the notebook. So if we click that ellipses here, we can open up the notebook for this group. Notebooks are built into Microsoft OneNote. And you'll see here as we open this, the notebook's empty because I just created this group. But we can create a new section, maybe for weekly meeting minutes. And we'll say okay, and we'll just kind of create a notes page in here. And you could add the date. And you can format these, any way you like. So you can add bullet points, etc., to start creating notes in a OneNote space that everyone on that team is going to have access. So now that we've generated this notebook and started adding sections, if I go onto my OneNote on my computer, and this is going to take a second, but once it signs in here, you'll see that we can open up additional notebooks. And so we're going to be able to open up this same notebook with these weekly minutes right on our own computer. So if you click on your notebook across the top here, we can say we want to open up more notebooks. And right away, since I'm a member of that Milwaukee group, I'm going to see that Milwaukee notebook and I'm going to be able to open it up. And as it opens up here, we'll see that we have that same weekly meeting minutes section, that same notes tab, and the ongoing meetings that I generated in the browser. So this is really slick for accessing your notes from your computer through OneNote or from the web browser, or we'll show in a minute, you can even open this up in your Teams environment. So moving to the next piece of groups, there is the planner feature, and we did a whole webinar on planner a few weeks ago. So if you're curious about more on planner, you can check that out. And we really dive into the ins and outs of project management using planner and manipulating the tasks and everything. But just to show you how this works, in planner now we have a plan for that Milwaukee team. So I can add a new task to remind me to schedule the weekly meeting. Maybe I wanted that done by today, and I'm going to assign myself real quick just to get this task generated. And now you're going to be able to view that planner task when we go into the Teams environment later. So last but not least is the SharePoint site piece of this Office 365 group. And if we open up our site here, you're going to see this is your SharePoint site now. If you want to use this as kind of an intranet space, you can do so, and you can manipulate what this page looks like and add other pages and stuff. But more importantly, from SharePoint, you can view all those other pieces of your Office 365 group. So we're going to see our conversations here, which would take us back into the Outlook environment, and you can view those emails that you've had. Oops. We can view the documents that are a part of this SharePoint site or group. So you can see that document that I uploaded earlier is available on the SharePoint side. You can view the notebook right from SharePoint, and so on. You can view the different pages. The really important part on the SharePoint side is this is where you can go to now generate a Microsoft Teams team that's also going to be part of your Office 365 group. So you can see down here in the bottom right, we want to create a team. So this is the one manual step if you create your Office 365 group from the Outlook side. But I found that this to be the easiest way to manipulate and edit the settings for your team. So now that we've got a Microsoft team, we can click here to go to that, and we're going to allow this to open up our actual Microsoft Teams app. So we're going to get out of the browser here. But you can see now it's added that Milwaukee team into our Microsoft Teams environment. And if we go into the files here, and if we were to add a file to our general channel, so we'll upload a file quick just to give you an example. You would see those files when we sync that entire environment down onto our computer like we did before. So, and then within the team, now you can add those other pieces. So now that we've got a Microsoft team set up, and we've got all those files, and if we went into SharePoint, we could sync this entire team back down to our computer and view the files in File Explorer. And then also from within Teams, we can add additional tabs here. So not just files, but we can add a OneNote tab. And once this loads here, we'll be able to select that notebook for the group and add that entire OneNote right into our Microsoft Teams. So now I can access those meeting notes right from within Teams, maybe while we're actually having a meeting. And then additionally, you can add a tab for Planner as well, right? So I could go to Planner and choose that existing Milwaukee team. So I'm going to use an existing plan for that Milwaukee team. And we're going to save that and add that into our tab too. So this is a really great way where you can start to kind of meld everything together in one place to make it really easy and convenient to get to everything all at the same time, all through the same platform in Microsoft Teams. So a couple other just cool little tricks and features in Microsoft Teams. If I hit Control, maybe it's not going to work for me in this demo time. Apologize for that. Oh, there we go. It's just taking a second. So if I hit Control and period on my keyboard, it's going to bring up a whole host of keyboard shortcuts. So this is a great way to start to learn how to navigate the environment. The one that I've used the most is go to the search. So if you need to search something and you're typing away in a channel or a team somewhere, you can hit Control E and it's going to take you right up to that search tab. And then from here, if you hit /, you're going to get a whole host of different activities. So you can view your activity, you can set your status, you can chat someone or call someone. Right from this search bar, you can see what's new, all kinds of different cool stuff. And then alternatively, instead of the /, if I hit the @ symbol, I can just jump to a conversation with an individual person, or I can use all of these other cool features to maybe call out praise for someone, or jump to a different news tab or places tab, or see the weather or the stocks, etc. One other fun feature, and ignore the fact that I'm going to have to open my on-screen keyboard to show you this. You won't have to do this, but if you hit the Windows key and the period on your computer, you're going to get an emoji pop out for all kinds of different emojis. So normally in Teams, you're only going to have this set of emojis here that's listed available, but now with this new Windows key and period setup, you can open up a whole new set of emojis and post different kinds of emojis into your Teams environment. So that's a cool little trick. And then a couple of other items in Teams before we shift gears here out of these productivity.
Quick question. Doing my job and interrupting you. So someone just asked if they have a team already created, can they do a group of that team in Outlook?
A team. So if you have a team already created, it should have on the back end an Office 365 group. You might just need to hunt it down. So if you go into your Outlook and you go to groups, you should see it listed in your groups. And that's not loading, but let me show you on the browser side. If we go into our Outlook, you should see all the groups. Like you'll see this Mark 8 project team that already exists and has a team and everything. So if you've already got it, if you've already kind of went the other direction and created a team, that's okay. You can still view your Office 365 group in Outlook and edit it that way. Cool. So shifting out of Teams a little bit, there's a lot more we could show you in Teams, but I do want to touch on another cool topic, and that's Microsoft Bookings. So this is pretty new, but Microsoft Bookings is very similar to the app Calendly. If anybody's familiar with that, Calendly is a tool where you can set up your availability on your calendar and then share a link with other folks, and they can book time with you based on your availability. So it makes a lot of the scheduling collaboration with external folks a lot smoother, a lot more automated. And so just to show you, since this is a little bit complicated to get started, I'm going to jump into the Bookings app here in the browser. And they treat this like new calendars that you have to generate, and Microsoft makes it a little confusing because it talks about using calendars for like an entire business, but you may want to just generate one of these calendars for yourself. So keep that in mind when you create a new booking calendar. It's going to kind of ask you some interesting questions to enter in the business name and the business type. You can just type in, you know, John's calendar, for example, but to showcase this, let's start up a calendar for Eric's Barber Shop. And mark that as a hair salon.
Mean joke.
What's that?
Mean joke.
So once you've created what's called a bookings calendar, now you can generate the different calendars and booking pages and services inside of here. So your main bookings page is where you're going to go and you can generate all the details about your page, show your, you know, you can post your company icon or maybe the picture of yourself here. And then you can change all these settings for the duration of normal meetings in your bookings account. And then once you publish your bookings page, what you're going to want to alternatively do is also add services that will then add up on your bookings page. And you'll see I chose a hair salon, so it's already creating some example services that we can use or edit. So that's really slick. And these would all show up on that bookings page. So maybe you want to have the ability for someone to book a 15-minute meeting with you, a 30-minute meeting, and a 60-minute meeting. So you could create those different services here. And then those would all be available on your booking page, which you then, once you publish this bookings page, you're going to share that link with others to book with you. Really important tip here, in each of these individual services, if we go in, they're going to have an option for adding an online meeting. This feature for an online meeting is automatically going to create a Microsoft Teams meeting for each event someone books with you. So keep that in mind. That's a really powerful tool for working remote right now. You can just have it automatically send a Teams meeting to folks when they book with you. So we're going to shift gears here and close out a demo. We'll have hopefully some time for questions if people want to stick around, but I do want to keep cruising along. So some security items that we want to touch on today. With using your Microsoft 365 account, it's really important that you have multi-factor authentication. So keep in mind that you should have this turned on. If you don't have this turned on at the organization level, you can enable it in just your own privacy and security settings, but I would really recommend talking with folks at your company about getting it implemented across the board. Then this is a really cool feature you can deploy across your entire Microsoft 365 tenant, and with some certain licensing, you can also deploy it for other connections like a VPN connection into your network using Microsoft. A couple of other security items that Microsoft offers: Exchange Online protection and advanced threat protection. So these are related to spam and malware filtering. They're really powerful tools that if you have set up across your organization, can set up things like safe attachments and safe links that are going to stop folks from clicking on the wrong links, or if they do click on them, it's going to still protect you and make it so that you can't get out to those links from malicious attackers. And then data loss prevention, and this is a really important tool to be able to identify sensitive information like your social security numbers, banking information, and all kinds of details in your Exchange, OneDrive, and SharePoint environments so that you can make sure those files are safely protected. And kind of a similar tool, Azure Information Protection. This allows you to manually and automatically classify certain types of data. So maybe you have, that secret sauce and you have a bunch of documents related to it for your business. You can now flag and mark those types of documents so that they're protected in your environment, and it'll protect the access and the usage of those files. So I know that was a lot. I know I went a little fast because we are short on time. We will open it up for questions here in just a moment, but I did want to take a moment to call out. And I believe 3 weeks from now, we have a really great webinar coming up. A little bit different spin. This one's going to be more about your ERP or CRM systems. And so it's going to talk about Salesforce and Dynamics 365, kind of what, trying to help you decide what is the best CRM solution for your business. And with that, we'll kind of shift gears here to questions. We can certainly jump back into the demo and stuff if people have specific questions. And it looks like Ryan also posted a link or two while we were running through there for those other webinars that we have touched on in the past, showcasing Planner and stuff like that. So if you haven't seen those and you're interested in Planner, feel free to jump into those other webinars and check those out, or let us know if you've got any specific questions.
One question that just came through, I don't know this answer at all. I'm not sure if you do. Someone had asked, do you know if a time input question will be available in forms anytime soon? We didn't cover forms.
We did not cover forms. Do you understand that, Eric? I'm not sure I understand the time input question part.
I'm not comfortable enough with forms to know the answer to that one, but it sounds like you can input a time as if it's showing when the time of the question was put in or something. So I'm not sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure either. I've used forms a little bit for surveys and stuff like that, and it works really well. But to your point, maybe it doesn't have a timestamp for different items, and we just don't know if that would be something that Microsoft would be working on. Cool. So we've got another question here. Where do we recommend starting a team in Outlook or Microsoft Teams? It's really just personal preference. I showcased the way to do it today was from Outlook side, truly because I believe it's a little bit easier to handle the different settings and stuff on the Outlook front. So like I mentioned earlier, if you go into your Outlook settings and you're in a specific group, you can edit those settings here really easily and tweak who has access to this team. And the different settings, if it's private or public, the name of it, the photo, all that stuff is really convenient and easy to get to from Outlook. But if you generate it from Teams, it's not gonna hurt anything. It's just gonna create it a little differently and create those subfolders for the team right out of the gate. It's really just personal preference which direction you prefer to go, and I would say maybe it makes more sense to generate it from the Teams side if the primary reason that you're creating it is for using it in Microsoft Teams. But if the primary reason is more for the email communication and setting up a OneNote notebook and all that stuff, then I would go the route that I demonstrated today.
Looks like that might be it. So thanks everybody for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. Thanks for working through the technical issue that we had earlier and sticking around.
What are you talking about, Eric?
Yeah. No, it was good. Well covered, Shane. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Bye, everybody.